are 5 creative watercolour ideas you can use in your junk journals even if you're just getting started. Hi, I'm Kat from Jolly Jam Journals. I've been diving deep into watercolour lately, testing colours, textures and little experiments to see what really works for junk journals. I've narrowed it down to my 5 favourites, beautiful, simple ideas you can try today, all totally beginner friendly. We'll play with sea salt, cling wrap and even a touch of gold ink. Plus, I'll show you how to turn your practice papers into art you can actually use. My goal is to help you turn simple watercolour play into something magical. Creative, usable pages for your journals, so let's dive in and make some messy magic together. Okay, so we're going to start off talking about our paints, and we're going to talk about swatching because how much fun is it to swatch colours, and what better way to get to know your watercolour paints, and that is to do a little bit of swatching. So apart from the fact as well that don't we just love to do a little bit of swatching on our papers. So to start off with, I've got some swatching here. You can see I've been busy. This has been a bit more in depth than I planned this to be for me, but I've had an absolute ball and I hope you get to enjoy watercolors as much as I have been enjoying watercolors. I've got some various watercolors here. I bought my watercolors a long time ago and they've just sat around doing nothing, and I just wanted to use them because I've always been drawn to painting and watercolors in particular. I sort of went on a bit of a deep dive and decided that I needed to get to know my colors, and I wanted to do swatching, but I wanted to understand why we were doing swatching. I've got some paints here. This one was probably maybe my first that I bought. I didn't really know what I was doing. These are called quarter pans, and this top row here are Jane Davenport paints. I couldn't even remember the names of them. I ended up swatching them, and then I went on to my account. Luckily I still had the details there, and I worked out what I bought and then I matched them to the colors, and this is what I did. I ended up getting all my colors and I swatched, and I tried to swatch, like, I think that is the top row there. Those 9 colors are the 9 colors on the top, and then I did the same thing. I did the 9 colors down below, and then I worked out what the names of them were. Not that that's really important, but I wanted to know. Okay, so these were some Winsor Newton ones, but I believe these are student grade. Now with watercolors, you've got artist grade and you've got student grade. The difference between artist grade is it's got a lot more pigment. Student grade is a bit less pigmented, and I think that they've got a bit more fillers. But honestly, for what we're doing, depending on how much you want to get into watercolors, I think student grade is perfectly fine. It's a little bit cheaper as well. So I then swatched my Winsor Newton paints here. Now what I've done here is what is called a color swatching chart, and I started to realize very quickly that if I wanted to get into watercolor coloring, there was going to be a lot of colors that I would think that I would need. And I luckily stumbled across a video. Well, there's lots of them out there, to be honest. I've watched a few of them, and they talk about color swatching, mixing charts. So basically, just very briefly, I got all my colors and I've made this grid. I counted how many I had. So I did 8 rows, and then I did 8 columns, and then I wrote lemon yellow, cadmium red, Indian red. I went across the top and I wrote all of my colors there, and then I did in the same order. I did them all here. Then what I did was, you can see here, lemon and lemon, and then I painted the lemon. Cadmium red, I painted that. Indian red, I painted Indian red. So this little diagonal line here is the true color of each of those paints. So then what you do is you go lemon yellow and cadmium red, and you mix it, say 50-50, and then this is what you get. You get this bright color here, but then water it down a little bit more with water, because with watercolors you don't add black and you to darken, and you don't add white to lighten. You add water, so add a little bit more water to it, so lemon and cadmium red, but a lighter, called a value. So if you add more water to it, you get a lighter value, and so this is kind of like a darker value of lemon yellow and cadmium red, and then this is a lighter version of the lemon yellow and cadmium red. It's very interesting because you can see all the different possible color combinations that you can get, and that way, for me, how I'm going to use it is, if I'm searching for a color, I'm going to check my swatches, and I'm going to say, well, you know, yeah, that color would be nice. So I know Viridian Hue and Cerulean Blue will kind of give me that color, and then I can mix it and try and get that color back again. So I've been working my way through this, and I'm going to say this is not something you do in one sitting. This is a project, and it's a lot of fun actually. It's quite relaxing. Now I'm going to introduce you just quickly to another concept. I'm working on an Australian journal. I've been working on this Australian journal for a long time, but I don't need it for another couple of years, and one day I'll get to that. But I did buy these paints, and this is many years ago. So this is another thing with watercolors, is that they do last a very long time. And the idea of it was I was going to use these colors throughout my Aussie journal, and I was going to do background washes and try and emulate the Australian outback in some way. So what I did was I did a color mixing chart of those colors. So I've got Aussie red gold, buff titanium, Australian grey, Polylene green, and Windsor blue. And you can see I've just done the same thing down here, and I've mixed it, and now I know I can get all those colors. I mean, look at that Australian grey. Isn't it absolutely gorgeous? I mean, that's just Australian grey. But you know, like even this Perylene green and Australian grey together, that is just such a lovely green. And then I got into the iridescents. Oh my goodness. And the metallics. It's exciting. This whole watercolor journal, I tell you, it's a deep dive. You can go as deep as you want. Heck, you might even take up watercoloring. But I just want to make it so that you can just have a look at your paints and you can use them. So then down here, I then got some metallics. I believe that these are Winsor Newton as well. I bought these off eBay if anybody wants to know. But then I did the same thing. I swatched these metallic colors, and aren't they absolutely gorgeous? And we're going to get into more of the metallics later on. Okay, so I've got myself some watercolor paper. This one is 185 grams. So I thought we'd give this a go. This is an A4, so it's there's the measurements there. What I'm going to do is tape this down. This is just a piece of cardboard, separate it into 6 panels, and we're going to do a little bit of play with watercolor, and we're going to create interesting texture. Alright, so I've got my piece of paper and I have just taped the edges, and then I have just sectioned it off into 6 different areas. So what we're going to do is paint some watercolor down in each area, and we're going to add things like salt. We're going to play around with some cling wrap or saran wrap, and then we're going to use bubble wrap plastic. And we're going to use some cheesecloth. Then we're going to use some salt water. So I've got a little dish and I'm going to mix up some salt water, and we're going to drop some drops of that in there. And then we're going to have a little play with some glycerine and dropping that in as well. All right, so first off, we're just going to get some paint, and we're just going to mix up some nice little splashy puddles of paint. And it doesn't really matter what colour we do. I might go this apple red colour. I'm probably going to need a bit because there's a larger area to cover. So let me just get my little paint area ready. Okay, so I'm just going to come across here, and I'm just going to, I love how watercolor just moves. You can see the pigment moving. This would be a good opportunity to also experiment with adding more pigment and seeing how it, I think they call that travelling. So let's do that. Add a little bit extra pigment. Okay. So this one, we might add bubble wrap. I just happened to get an order today, and it's the right type of bubble wrap. So you're looking for, see how it's flat on that side, but it's got the bubbles raised on this side. So we're just going to pop that there, and we're going to press that in, and we're just going to let that dry and see what happens. The next one, so what colour shall we do next? Let's do, I'm not sure what this is like, looks like a purple. So let's come over here. Oh, I know what colour I'm going to do this one. Or shall I do a different colour? Might just add a little bit more water to that. So we've got a nice watery puddle there, and we're going to come across and paint. Okay, and I might come in straight to my pan here and just add a bit of a darker colour. I'm just going to swirl it around like so. This one, I think what we might do is get some of our sea salt and let's sprinkle that on there. See how it reacted immediately? I'm thinking let's go a nice blue. So get some paint in the middle there. And add a bit more water to it. There we go. And let's make a wash. I have no idea how this tape is going to hold up, whether there's a little bit of leakage in there, but I don't think that really matters. Okay. Who can see amazing textures coming from that one? All right, so I'm going to get my cheesecloth. I actually think that this is it's gauze from a first aid box. Someone was cleaning out their first aid kit, and it was still in the packet, but the packet was a little bit, you know, seen better days, so it's probably not very sterile, but they didn't want to throw it away, and I said, I'll take it. I can use it. Okay, so I'm just going to get a little bit extra colour, and I'm just going to tap bits of the gauze there and see what happens when I do that. This is all experimentation, it's all play, so we're just seeing what happens, and you can probably end up using some of these features in your background pages. You can use them on the base of tags. Okay, so let's just leave that and see what happens. I hope something happens. All right, so now we're going to go and do the saran wrap one. So this one I might go a mixture between like a brown, like that colour there, and then I might put a little bit of brown in that too, just to kind of darken up a little bit, something like that. Darker pigment. Okay. This one we're going to put down the saran wrap. Squish it into the page like that, and not touch it until it completely dries. Okay, so we've got 2 more panels left. Oh my goodness, I think that would be such an interesting background. I can see some stamping on that already. Alright, now this one, I'm going to go, I might go this colour now, add it in. I know I'm going in on the red, but I don't think it really matters. The red and the purple, I should say. Okay, we'll get that. Oops. Just want to make sure I get everything there. Okay, now this one, I've got this ink, gold mica. Now I got this off Amazon and I am obsessed with this. This is just amazing. So I'll hold it up for you again so you can see it. It is just so beautiful. Now it's got like a little marble, or it's got something in it, so we shake it up. Look at that, absolutely gorgeous. And I'm just going to get one of the little paintbrushes and wet it. Now hopefully I've got enough water. I'm just going to check. I think it's okay, but I just wanted to wet it just to make sure, because this is where the magic happens. I'm just going to add, let's go 3 drops. But what we're going to do is we're going to get our glycerin, and I've got this Jane Davenport little butterfly thing, and I never understood why it came with my paints, but now I do. And we're dropping 1 little drop into each one of those, and then I'm going to get my brush and I'm just going to move it around and just have a little play and just spread it around. My favorite one is to just come out the middle and kind of do like a spiral like that and just move it. So we'll just leave that now, leave it to dry. And then the final one is, I'm just going to get some water. And to the water, I'm going to add some of this salt. I'm just going to get like a, you know, like a pinch, a good solid pinch. I've not done this before, so I don't know if there's supposed to be like a more concentrated salt. I might add another, let's go 2 pinches of salt. All right, and what colour are we going to do for this? Let's do this colour. This is, I think it's called Royal. It's either that or it's the Frida one. I don't know if that's how you say that, pronounce that properly. I'm assuming it's something to do with the goddess. All right, oh, that's a beautiful colour. It's like a grape colour. Okay, so I'm going to get my, let's mix this up now. Just mixing it up just to dissolve the salt. Actually, I might just come in. Oh wow, oh my goodness, it just makes, look at that. I'll see if I can get you in closer. I sort of feel if I do one more, it's kind of going to ruin it, but I want you to see the effect. See, I just did a little one. See how it's spreading? We'll do one down here. There we go. All right, so we will put them aside and we will let them dry, and we will come back. What I'll do is I'll write what everything is, so that when we take everything away, we will remember what we did. Okay, so here we are. The paint has dried now, so I thought we would pull back everything and have a little look. So we'll have a look at the bubble wrap and see how that one turned out. Oh wow, yeah, I like that. That is very cool. All right, so that's the bubble wrap. So let's have a look and see how the, oh yeah, I do like that. That's the one with the cheesecloth. So bring that up a bit closer for you to have a look. Hopefully you can see. Look at that lovely little bit of texture there. I do like that. And of course that's the salt one. Okay, so the glycerine is still a little bit, you can see it's still a bit glossy there. This did the same thing in my brown paper packaging video. And by the way, thank you everybody so much for watching that video and all the lovely and kind comments. I'm so thrilled at how much you all enjoyed that. All right, so I'm just going to get some paper towel. Hopefully, yeah, I think the gold is, it's still a little bit damp, so I'm just gonna, normally I'd wait overnight for this to dry, but we'll help it along a little bit for the sake of the video. But the gold is still there. It's still there. Okay, but some of the paint is coming up. So normally I would let that dry naturally overnight. Okay, and now I'm looking forward to this one. Oh yeah. Oh wow. That's really cool. So I'll bring it all close up for you to have a look. So there's the bubble wrap. There's that's the salt. We'll just get a brush. I think you can see it better actually now that it's down. But it looks really cool. So I'm just going to get my brush and brush away the salt. That one I'm really impressed with. I'm impressed with all of them, to be honest. So there you have it. I'm going to take away the painter's tape and we'll have a look and see how that looks. All right, so there we go. I've removed the painter's tape, so I'm very happy with the quality of that. And it's made these 6 lovely panels, which I've labelled. I don't know what to say. I like them all. I can see lots of lovely textures that we can now try on our background papers. And I'm also thinking that this makes a lovely page in itself. Another idea I had was actually you could cut these panels out and just use them as a background and use them as a panel on a page. You could use them as pocket backgrounds, or you could use them as tag backgrounds. There's just so many things that we can do with this in our junk journal world. So I hope you enjoyed these ideas. Okay, so we're going to talk about metallic watercolors now. In my pan here, I have got, across this row here, I've got some quarter pan metallic paints. And again, I ordered these off eBay and this was some time ago. So the paints, they really do last a long time. So you can see here that I've swatched them. Chestnut, Mirandy, gold, dusty lavender, sage green, peach pink, teal and sterling silver. So I'll just show you those colours there. Absolutely gorgeous. And I think it's worth also swatching something like this on craft brown, like craft brown and black. So spray. And when I was swatching, I was just taking my brush like so, and then I was just doing like a swipe like that. And while we're here, we'll do it on the black, because I think it's worth having a look to see how they look on different coloured papers. So we'll just continue with the swatching. When you dip your paints into the metallic paints, oh, they come up so buttery and creamy. Absolutely gorgeous. Oh, just love it. I just think that they look very dynamic on the black. So I'll just play some music and you can just enjoy. Oh, doesn't that just look amazing? You can just enjoy the process while I do my swatching. So you can see that some colours are probably going to work better on the craft brown. I'd love to hear if anybody watching has had experience with watercolours and their favourite ways of using watercolour and their experience with it as well, and perhaps in particular any metallic colours. What you do with metallic colours like that just looks amazing on the black. So when I was swatching these colours, just these little swipes, they just made me think how cute they would look with sentiments. So I did create some. I wish my handwriting was better, but you know, I just think that a little paintbrush stroke with a sentiment just looks absolutely gorgeous. This one's waiting. And to give you an example of how I use that, bring out my book, come to this page here. So this one here, I've been having a little bit of fun with. I just did some background with like the border. I just used watercolour. I used a purple and then I used the buff titanium. And then I got some gesso, and you can see very faintly underneath there that there's writing there. This creativity takes courage. I thought I would place that just there. So let's do that. So I'll get my vintage photo. I think I'll just slightly ink the edges. And we'll just glue that down. So there you can see the sheen of the metallic. Now some other things that I did. So because it looks quite striking on the black, I've got this die cut here. These little pouches for the die cuts I made, and I do have a video on how I made these. So it's just, you know, your scrapbook paper that you don't use, and I just created these little pockets. And if you've got something like this, so you die cut this piece out here, which gives you the black base, and then you use this die cut and that will give you that lacy bit there. So that's what I did, which I thought they were rather cute. Now this was a little bit of a happy accident. I die cut it and it just so happened I perfectly die cut it on the fold. This is just a little bit of old packaging actually, and it didn't cut all the way through, so I was able to bend it like this, but I don't know what to do with it. So if anybody's got any ideas of how I could use this, I would be really appreciative. because the thing is, if I could glue it down into a junk journal page, but then I can't open it. So the only thing I could think of is if I turned it into a little notebook and just slipped it into a pocket. But there's got to be a clever way that we can use this. So if anyone's got any ideas, please let me know in the comments, and we'll meet down there and we'll chat about it. And finally, well, not finally, but I've got this gorgeous die cut of a fairy, and you can see that I use the metallic paint on her wings and on her little skirt. And make sure you keep watching because we're going to have fun with her. And just one moment. Finally, I wanted to show you, because we're going to do background pages shortly. This was a little bit of a happy accident. So I was watercoloring. Now this is copy paper. Now this paper in particular is a shiny copy paper. I don't know if it's meant to be like a photo sort of type paper, but it's not the normal copy paper. It has got a bit of a sheen to it. And I was mixing up some watercolors, and I accidentally mixed in some metallic paint with it, and then I brushed it on, and it gave me this beautiful pearlescent sort of paper. Now, little tip for you, I'm going to, in an upcoming video, I'm going to be doing a stacked envelope tutorial. I'm going to link I'm going to link up there my video on 5 ways to use envelopes as ephemera in junk journals. It's been a very popular video. It has over 75,000 views, and the final set that I showed was a stack of 5 envelopes. And I just showcased it, and I asked if anybody would like me to do a tutorial on it, just to let me know. And I've had lots and lots of requests. So it's long awaited, but that is coming up, and I'm going to be using some of these papers. So if you want to maybe, you know, get some metallic paints out, mix it 50-50 with watercolor, make a puddle of watercolor, whatever color you want, and then add in some metallic watercolor paint, and then mix it up, and then just spread it over the page and let it dry. Because it's a copy paper, it doesn't sink into the paper. It kind of pools on the top, and then the water evaporates and it leaves all the pigment behind, and it creates this absolutely gorgeous metallic sort of sheen, almost pearlescent type paper. So I just wanted to show you that one. But yeah, I think I'd be very interested to hear what more we can do with metallics. I'm certainly going to be experimenting more. But yeah, if you've got some ways you use metallic watercolors in your junk journals, please let us know. Now I'm just going to show you, when I was playing around the other day, this is what I created. And you can see that the paper is very, very thin. It's thicker than copy paper that we use for our tea dyeing, but it's definitely not as thick as this. And I love it. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it, and I would use this 100%. I would use this in a journal. But I was just curious to see how this would look if I use the 300 GSM. So we're going to recreate this. Now, in my previous video, how to use brown paper packaging in junk journals, and I'll link that up here in case you haven't seen that yet, we created this peeled paint paper. And what I've done is I've die cut it out to a window. So if you've got a window die cut, or you've got a door die cut, or anything, you know, you can improvise, but that's what I had and that's what I did. So what I'm going to do is show you how I created this background. Okay, so I've got my 300 GSM watercolor paper here. I'm going to be working with my Daniel Smith Buff Titanium and Duochrome Adobe. I've put a little bit of the Buff Titanium into my mixing palette here, and I've got a little acrylic block. I have also got some archival Pebble Beach ink, and then I've got some stamps. I'm going to use this script, and then I've got like this postal cancellation. Then afterwards I'm going to come in with some splatters and I have got these pigmented ink splatters, black and white. You could use black and white paint, and then I've got this mica gold ink that I'm going to be using as well. So I think that covers it, and of course I've got my die cuts as well, which are off to the side. So to start off with, I'm just going to take my watercolor brush. I'm just going to dip it into the water, and I've just picked up a fair amount of water in here, and I'm making a very watery sort of consistency here, and you can see my brush is very thirsty and it's picking it up. Now before I do anything more, what I am going to do is I'm going to spritz my paper, and then I'm going to take my brush, which is now loaded up with the paint and the water, and I'm just going to make a couple of smears across the page like so. Okay, and then I'm going to come in with my luminescent paint, and I'm just going to put a little bit down there in the corner. I'm just going to clean my brush, but I'm not going to worry about cleaning it too much because it's a similar colour. And again, I'm going to load my brush up. I'm just going to mix up my paint on the side here, and again I'm going to come in and holding my brush. My technique is that I'm holding my brush at the top, but very loosely. So I'm just going to hold my paper down. I'm going to just do that. I might even do that. That's it. Just leave it at that. Okay, so I'm just going to get some of my buff titanium, and I'm just going to put a little dollop of that into my pan. It'll now dry, and it'll act like these ones here, but for now it is wet. And I'm just coming in with a smaller brush. Actually, I might change brushes over, and I'm going to use this one now, which is the West Art synthetic mop, and it's a 0. This one I'm not sure if I showed, but that one is a West Art synthetic mop, and it's a size 4. Okay, so I'm just going to wet that up, and I'm just going to get some more of this titanium, and I'm just going to put it onto my acrylic block here like so, and then I'm going to get some of this iridescent paint. Might just put a little bit on there like that, and I'm just going to mix that around like so, and then I'm going to come along and I'm just going to drop it onto my paper. And then I'm just going to lift it. You might just spread it out just a little bit, just to so it doesn't have any lines. Okay, so we're going to let that dry, and I'll be back. I'll just come down here. There's a little bit more paint. So I'm just going to let that dry. I might get the heat gun to it, and we'll come back when the paper's dry. Okay, so the paper is dry now, and you'll see You've got these just swipes across the page. You've got this lovely iridescent sort of shimmer to the page, and then you've got these smooshed areas, and that's where we're going to put our die cut over. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold this in half so that when this goes into a journal, we're going to know where the fold mark is. So I'm just going to just crease that. Okay, so now I know what we're working with. All right, so I'm going to come in now with my ink, and we're going to just do a ghost imprint, and we're going to do it on both pages. So I'm just going to come across and maybe just do one there, and then same on the other side. And you can see as soon as you start putting a little bit of stamping, everything starts to come together. And now I'm going to work out where I'm going to bring my die cuts in now. Okay, this is where tweezers will come in handy. Okay, so I think I'm going to have that like so, have that like that. We're going to have that down here. I might push this up just a fraction. And then we're going to have the fairy is going to be sitting up here like so. So, which means that I probably want my cancellation mark in that top right corner there. Just like so. Right, now there's lots of ideas you could come up with this. I've thought about trying to make a pocket because these doors open, but that's something I'm going to work on, and if I can work out what to do, we'll make that a future tutorial. But I'm going to now glue this down. Just want to make sure that these don't actually stick down. Okay, so now I'm going to come along. I've just realized I am going to have to glue these down because the flowers are going to be glued. So yeah, there goes that idea. Now these flowers that I have die cut, I have done other papers, and that will be my next video. So I have done a bit of a session on papers because what I'm doing is I'm creating a playlist, and it's pretty much, you know, from go to woe of creating junk journals. So I thought a good place to start was the papers, and then I will move on to other things like ephemera and making covers, etc. So I hope you're enjoying what I'm doing and getting something out of it. Definitely let me know in the comments if you've got any ideas for something you might want to learn. I'm not saying I know how to do it, but I'll certainly look into it. Yeah, we can have a little bit of fun playing around with it, because that's what this is all about, just having fun and playing and learning new things and taking our journaling to another level. Because I don't know about you, but I absolutely love doing this, and I want to make the most of all the supplies that I've got. So I'm on a bit of a deep dive, learning how to use everything and get the most out of it, and I'm happy to share the journey along the way as I learn. Right, so we'll put the little windowsill on now. You can kind of see actually that the doors are a little bit open. It looks really cool. Alright, and the final touch, well, not quite yet, but okay, so there we have it. There is our watercolour background, and we have got watercolour sentiment, and then we have got the fairy with the watercolour metallic ink. So I found this piece of paper when I was cleaning up. It's obviously a piece I put aside. I don't even know if it was me that did this. I think that this might be my stepdaughter Isla, when we used to have our painting sessions together many years ago when she was a lot younger. But I do have a creative way of what we can do with these pieces of paper, especially like if you've been practicing brush strokes or leaf strokes, etc. with your watercolour. So I'll be back in a moment, and with the magic of video. So I think I managed to get every inch out of that piece of paper that I possibly could. But how effective is that? I got all these lovely, gorgeous die cuts. I got the witch's hat and the lovely cat there, very Halloweeny. And yeah, just flowers, a little bit of lace, gorgeous little fairy again. And I also did the same thing for these practice papers. What I did was I cut these flowers out and just stamped them. Then out of the glycerine one, isn't that gorgeous? I cut a little mini tag out of, and then this is the sea salt. And then I discovered that purple is a very dark colour, and it didn't kind of work out so well for when I was doing that. That's why I went for a paler colour. But then I ended up finding that I had this spider web die cut, so I cut that. That's one thing that I do with my leftover. And then I was practicing with backgrounds, and I wasn't too keen on this one, so I turned over and I tried again, and I'm happier with that one, although I think that the gold is a little bit thick for my liking. But I found that I had this autumn leaf die cut, so I think I'm just going to play around with this, add a few more colours, and then I think that would make a lovely autumn leaf. And the same with this one here. I was trying to go for like a yellow ochre look, but that was way too dark. So I think I'm going to play around with both those bits of paper, and they're going to be destined to become autumn leaves. See, like this one here was a practice run here. Now I can die cut that out and make a little tag or make a little label. And this one here, when I was cleaning up, that was kind of with it, and I thought that looked really funky. So I thought, let's experiment with that one, and let's have a little play. So I think what I'll do is I'm going to cut it, but I'm going to cut it because I'll probably end up die cutting it. So I'm going to leave it like so. And I pulled out some stamps, so I thought, let's go for something a bit grungy. Let's even go for a G, hey? Because why not? Let's go G. I don't know. Yeah, maybe those numbers there would look really cool. I think I'm just going to pat this. I could put this in the stamping platform, but I think it will be good. And it probably doesn't matter if it comes out a bit grungy anyway, because I think that's going to add to the look. All right. I reckon it needs a little bit of red in there or something else. But I think you get the idea. There we go. How cool is that? That's just something we can add to our stash and we can use in our journaling. Okay, so this turned out to be quite the marathon. I clearly have a lot of feelings about watercolor, but honestly, I loved every minute of it. And if you're still watching right now, you deserve a medal. Leave me a comment saying brushy bliss so I know you made it to the end. But we have got a vast array here, so just rounding up, we talked about swatching. So I hope you have a lot of fun doing all your swatching, but also understanding a little bit about how our paints can work with us with this color mixing chart. And then we had so much fun, didn't we? Learning about textures and watercolor. So I'm going to be definitely using some of these techniques in my journal papers. And we learned a little bit about metallic paints, and I'm definitely going to be exploring that one as much as I can because I absolutely love metallic paint. And we created this gorgeous journal page background with watercolor, so I hope that helps expand, you know, the ways that you can make some papers for your journals. And then what I love so much about junk journaling is how can we use up things that would normally get probably tossed away or not used. How can we repurpose them and give them a second life? So I hope you enjoyed crafting along with me, guys, and as always, have a jolly good time, and I'll see you in the next one.